Hi guys, this is Avinash Sharma, and in this session we will discuss the problem with the waterfall model. It means when we follow the waterfall model and what kind of problem we face. What are the disadvantages of the waterfall model? As we discussed in the last video, the waterfall model, we can refer this one as a linear sequential life cycle model because all the tasks gets executed in sequence, or we can say it's a traditional waterfall software lifecycle model. So in this model, the tasks are divided into phases, and phase gets executed in sequence. Then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Whenever the phase 1 is completed, then next phase means phase 2 starts. And whenever the phase is completed, then the next phase 3 starts. That's why it is called the linear sequential lifecycle model. If we check this design for the software development lifecycle, then first phase is the analysis, analyzing of the documents, then designing, development, testing, and finally deployments. So these are the phases, and these phases have to be executed in sequence. So once the first phase is completed, then we move to the next phases. Whatever we observed in the diagram, we can discuss it in the details. So first of all, the first phase is the analysis or the requirement. In the first phase, we gather the information about the requirement, and then we mention those requirements in a documents. That is called the documentation. After that, the documentation is completed, then we move to the system designing. In system designing, we take the input from the analysis or from the documentation. Then we decide what kind of technology or what kind of hardware we require for this project. Once this system design is done, then we move for the implementation. From the input from the system designing, we divide the programs or development into small units. Then all units are integrated in the next phase. Each unit is developed and tested, and each unit is called the unit testing. After the implementation, we move for the testing. All the units developed in the implementation are integrated on a one system, and that system is put on for the testing purpose. After the testing, then the next phase is the deployment. We deploy that whole system on one platform that is tested by the end user. When we follow the waterfall model, so this is our expectation. It means we think we are prepared for everything. We have the domain knowledge, we have the documentation, we have the system designing, everything. We have the development team, and we will deliver the system on time. So this is our expectation from the waterfall model. But in reality, things are very different. We expect the requirements of the project are fixed. But in reality, or in most of the projects, the clients keep requesting change in the project. And that changes during the development that is not accepted in the waterfall model. In waterfall models, other problems are there. So we will discuss those problems in the details. Now we'll discuss the problems with the waterfall model. First of all, we can say it's a one-way street. The waterfall model is like a one-way street. It means where the traffic can move only one direction. This is the same thing with the waterfall model. You can see we have the phases 1, phases 2, phases 3. Phases 1 starts, and whenever the phases 1 is completed, then you can move to the phase 2. After completion of the phase 2, then you can move to the phase 3. But once you reach on the phase 3, then you cannot move back to the phase 2 or phase 1. So this is like a one-way direction. Next one is the overlapping. As we discussed in waterfall model, the things happens in the sequence. On phases 1 start, then whenever it completes, then we can move to the phase 2 in sequence. And it cannot overlap the other phases. It means the phase 1 is going on, and we cannot start the phase 2 before the completing of the phase 1. So the overlapping is not possible in the waterfall model. Feedback is very important for the improvement of the quality of the product. But in waterfall model, there is no scope of the feedback. During the development, when the project is completed and the project is deployed on the server, then end user can give the feedback. But before that, there is no scope for the feedback. And it's a drawback with the waterfall model. In waterfall model, the project cannot be delivered into pieces. It means into phases. Until and unless all the phases are completed, then the system cannot be delivered. So this is another drawback with this waterfall model. In waterfall model, there is no feedback path because in waterfall model it is assumed that no error is ever committed by the developers. It assumes that all the errors have been handled properly in the development phase. That's why there is no scope for the feedback path in the waterfall model. And finally, not flexible. We assume when we start the project, then we prepare the documentation. We take the input from the client and we analyze the requirement, and then we mention everything, every requirement in the documentation. After that, we assume that there is no change in the requirements in the future or during the development. But in reality, it happens. The new changes must be incorporated in the development requested by the client. But that is not possible in the waterfall model. So this is another drawback with the waterfall model. So guys, this was all about the problem with the waterfall model. For more video on the Agile, please like video and subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching the video.